The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome to the show. It is Thursday, January 23rd, 2014, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All sorts of news we have to get to today in this next 2-hour program, including our regularly scheduled Cops Say Legalized Drugs segment. We've got John Baker joining us. He's a retired deputy sheriff from Colorado, and he's going to clue us in on how Colorado has gone to hell in a handbasket since legalizing marijuana. Now, you've heard the stories, right? Nonstop riots, fires, floods, cats and dogs living together, disasters of biblical proportions. Just kidding. We'll talk to him about how legalization is making the job of cops easier there in the state of Colorado in our Cops Say Legalized Drugs segment. Also on today's show, we'll have time for a radical rant. Yesterday, I got into a little bit of a Twitter discussion with the wife of Dr. Christian Thurstone. Her name is Christine Tatum. She's a journalist who is very against the legalization of marijuana, and she lives there in Denver, Colorado. She made some claims about marijuana rehab statistics, and when I questioned her on them, she refused to back them up with any data. We're going to take a look at that data and the reticence of people in the rehab industry to admit what we all know: marijuana legalization hurts their bottom line. Also on today's show, we have the 13th poll to come out since 2009. This one from CBS News showing majority support for marijuana legalization. We'll break down all the crosstabs and give you the details in our Behind the Headlines segment. Also today, we have our Daily Toker Tunes. It's Groovin' Thursday, so Baggo Schwaggo is going to be calling in. He's got a great tune for us today. I believe this one is from a group or an artist named Perf, and it's called Weed Song, so we'll check that out. We also have our 420 radio news that starts right after our first break here, including an interesting quote from Texas Governor Rick Perry, a look at a Philadelphia city councilman working for decriminalization, medical marijuana in the state of Tennessee, an update on the NFL and their treatment of medical marijuana for concussion, and a look at the new testing rules for Oregon dispensaries that have some horticulturalists concerned they may be too stringent. Then we'll take things into Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. We'll take your calls at 971-533-7111. We're going to be talking to a family from Alabama who's moving to Colorado to get medical marijuana. We've got a video with Nick Gillespie versus Patrick Kennedy on legalization, and Norm Kent is going to be on Nancy Grace again tonight. We take a look at his last appearance. Stick around, plenty coming up on the Russ Belville Show.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the best way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com. 420 Radio. Tune in, turn on, get highly educated. Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. This is your 420 Radio News for Thursday, January 23rd, 2014, brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition. I'm Russ Belville. Texas Governor Rick Perry, speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, said he is in favor of decriminalization of marijuana use. Perry made his remarks at an international panel on drug legalization that included former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan and Colombian President Juan Manuel. Perry explained, quote, "As governor, I have begun to implement policies that start us toward a decriminalization," end quote, describing a system of drug courts, fines, and rehab programs. In the past, Perry has simultaneously opposed the legalization of marijuana while defending the right of states to make that determination under the 10th Amendment. Lucy Nashid, a spokesperson for the governor, said, quote, "The goal is to keep people out of jails and reduce recidivism," end quote. According to the executive director of the Texas Criminal Justice Coalition, more than 15,000 people are imprisoned in Texas solely for drug possession. A Philadelphia city councilman is proposing to decriminalize possession of 30 grams or less of marijuana. Councilman Jim Kenney notes that in 2010, after the glaring racism in city marijuana arrests was exposed by Philly Normal, the district attorney changed policy to divert anyone arrested for less than an ounce of marijuana to a lower court where they could pay a fine rather than face jail time. Kenney proposes that the city do away with the arrest entirely and replace it with a $200 fine and 3 hours at a drug abuse seminar. Quote, "The DA is diverting them anyway, so why are we locking them up?" Kenney asked. "If we're not going to prosecute and these folks are going to go to a diversionary program anyway, why are we wasting our time arresting them?" End quote. Kenney called arrests, quote, "very traumatic," end quote, and under his proposal, those who pay the fine and complete the program would have the incident erased from his or her record. Representative Sherry Jones of Tennessee has filed a medical marijuana bill in the state legislature. Known as the Kooser-Kuhn Medical Cannabis Act, it would allow the use of cannabis as medicine for the treatment of the so-called Big 8 conditions most medical marijuana states allow: cancer, AIDS, glaucoma, cachexia, spasms, seizures, pain, and nausea, as well as recognizing use for hepatitis C, post-traumatic stress, and hospice patients. The bill allows patients to possess a 1-month supply of cannabis, but the summary does not make it clear how much cannabis that is or whether it includes patients growing their own plants. The bill does establish a dispensary system and protects the rights of patients to housing, employment, education, and organ transplants, but would not recognize out-of-state medical marijuana cards. The bill sits in the Tennessee House Government Operations Subcommittee, where no votes or hearings have been held on it yet. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell alluded to the possibility of the league allowing medical marijuana use. Speaking at the Head Health Challenge sponsored by General Electric, Goodell conceded there may be a future where professional football players are allowed to treat concussions and pain with cannabis. Quote, "We will follow medicine, and if they determine that this could be a proper usage in any context, we will consider that," Goodell said. "Our medical experts are not saying that right now." End quote. 11 NFL teams play in states where medical use is legal, and 2, the Super Bowl-bound Seattle Seahawks and Denver Broncos, play where recreational use is legal. Goodell's comments follow a well-publicized report on HBO's Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel, where former NFL players allege that over half the NFL uses marijuana for pain relief. The report also exposed work in Israel on brain-damaged mice, showing marijuana can alleviate half of the brain damage suffered in a concussion. Oregon marijuana experts are concerned that the latest cannabis testing rules for dispensaries are too stringent. Oregon legalized dispensaries last year, and they are set to open their doors in March. The law makes no requirement to test for THC and CBD levels, but the new rules will. In addition, the rules require testing for mold, mildew, and pesticides. While advocates support testing for these contaminants, their complaint is that the state has decided to set their baselines at levels far below what is possible to achieve with an herbal product. Researcher Todd Delato explains that lawmakers chose to reference the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, which sets standards for highly refined, purified, and synthetic pharmaceutical drugs, instead of the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia being used in Washington state as the basis for testing its marijuana. Some current operators complain that the high cost of such stringent testing is pushing the small craft growers out of the business. This has been your 420 Radio News for Thursday, January 23rd, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. You can get transcripts of the 420 Radio News daily at the National Cannabis Coalition. Visit ncc420.com for more information. When we come back, we'll go behind the headlines to take a look at the latest poll from CBS News showing yet another majority in support of marijuana legalization. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activists to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
Marijuana, do you wanna? Mary, do you wanna tonight?
As marijuana goes mainstream, you need to be armed with the facts. Nobody can teach you better than Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D. You may know Dr. Mitch from his column in High Times magazine or his weekly appearance on The Russ Belville Show. Dr. Mitch is also the author of some of the best books on marijuana science, culture, history, and health, including Understanding Marijuana, Parents' Guide to Marijuana, Pot Politics, and more. Visit Amazon.com and search for Mitch Earlywine, that's EARLEYWINE, and order your books today. You can also contact Dr. Mitch by email at 420research@gmail.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Just about a quarter after. Time for us to go behind the headlines on a new poll from CBS News showing 51% support for marijuana legalization. This is their first ever poll they've done since 1979 where they have found majority support. That's 51% support for legalization. That's up from 45% who supported marijuana legalization in their poll just last April, 8 months ago. And in October of 2011, CBS reported 51% in support of prohibition. So in just, 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, we've gone from 51% supporting prohibition to 51% supporting legalization. Now, CBS's poll also showed demographic trends that have been mirrored in recent polls by Pew and Gallup. The only age group that still has majority support for maintaining prohibition is age 65 and older. There also still remains an 11-point gender gap, with 57% of men in support of legalization, but only 46% of the women in support of legalization. And ideologically speaking, Republicans and conservatives still support prohibition at 61%. CBS also asked about medical marijuana, and it continues to enjoy widespread public support. CBS reports that 86% of the nation believes doctors should be able to prescribe marijuana for medical use. They asked further about whether or not Americans believed that the medical marijuana currently being used in the medical marijuana states was being used for serious medical conditions. And only 1/3 of Americans, it was actually 34%, a little over a third, believe that medical marijuana is currently being used for serious medical illnesses. Despite that, however, even among those people who think it's being used for something other than serious medical illnesses, 3 out of 4 of them, actually it's 77%, 3 out of 4 of those people who think medical marijuana is being used for other purposes still support the right of doctors to prescribe medical marijuana. And when asked about deciding the legality of marijuana, 62% of Americans believe that should be left up to the individual states to decide, not the federal government. Republicans overwhelmingly agree. They were at 72% that marijuana legalization is a states' rights issue, while 40% of Democrats still believe the federal government ought to determine this issue versus 56% of Democrats who support states making that decision. And CBS's poll, by the way, is the 13th poll in the past 5 years to show majority support for marijuana legalization. Going all the way back to May of 2009, Zogby came up with 52%. Angus Reid had 3 polls in a row, December of 2009, July of 2010, August of 2011, with 53, 52, and 55% support. Gallup's poll in 2011, in October, found 50% support for marijuana legalization. Rasmussen in May of 2012 came out at 56%. Quinnipiac University in November of 2012, 51%. Angus Reid again with their 4th poll, this one November of 2012, found 54% support. Public policy polling in December of 2012 came out with 58%. The Pew Center in April of last year, 52%. The Gallup polling organization in October of last year, 58% support. CNN Time magazine poll that came out just the beginning of this month, 55%. And now this CBS News poll, January of this year, 51% support for marijuana legalization. It's increasingly becoming a majority support issue, and the only people who support it are getting older and dying. This is something that politicians are going to have to take a look at if they're going to want the support of the people in the forthcoming elections. They start to realize that only conservative Republicans are in support of marijuana prohibition is going to bring forth in Republican primaries those Republicans that want to maintain the status quo, who want to be tough on drugs. And once those guys get out of the primaries and have to face Democrats who are going to have an increasingly evolved position in support of even legalization of marijuana, as we saw from the potential senatorial candidate up there in Maine, Republicans are going to be increasingly marginalized as they already are with respect to minorities and the youth vote. If Republicans want to capture some of that minority vote, some of that youth vote, it is incumbent upon them to address the issue of marijuana legalization. And we're beginning to see with Republicans like even Rick Perry in Texas and Bobby Jindal down there in Louisiana supporting some reforms in marijuana. This is going to be an issue the Republicans cannot afford to avoid. We're not going to avoid it either. In fact, we're going to do some experimentation, try to collect some data here.
Okay, then.
Here's our experiment. Start collecting. We'll be right back in a minute.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
.420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio. Check out our prime time lineup every weekday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On Mondays, it's Stony Sundays with Coral Reefer from San Francisco, California. On Tuesdays, Weed Nerd with Subcool from the Emerald Triangle of Northern California. On Wednesdays, Free Weed from Danny Danko from Brooklyn, New York. On Thursdays, Jorge Cervantes TV with Jorge Cervantes from Barcelona, Spain. And on Fridays, The Jody Emery Show from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. That's 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and 1 a.m. GMT, right here on 420radio.org.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
I'll say little red carpet, darling, your mud's too fierce. Little red carpet, you need a lover that's gonna lay.
Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Groovin' Thursday, featuring rap, hip-hop, soul, and funk music. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everyone. 23 after the hour. Time for us to get into Groovin' Thursday. And Bago Schwago is our Groovin' Thursday editor, but he has not called in yet. I'm not sure what's keeping him, but I apologize for that because I don't know a thing about the artist that is performing our Groovin' Thursday Daily Toker tune. So I'll stall a little bit and see if Bago Schwago calls in by letting you know tonight we've got a brand new episode of Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink. Make sure you check that out, 8 o'clock Pacific time. We've got the Big Daddy bringing you all the greatest funk, soul, R&B, and this weekend, or this Thursday, I should say, the disco. The episode this weekend, it'll play this weekend as well. It's in the replays. But this Thursday night, 8 p.m., Funkin' That Disco Scene 3, going back to my roots. So you're going to get a lot of that great disco music. Check that out, 8 p.m. tonight. It's also on replays Friday and Saturday nights at 10 p.m. You get 2 hours of the Funky Roller Rink, the latest rink, and one from the archive. So if you dig that old funk, soul, R&B, disco stuff, check out Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink. Going to be a good one. Also coming up tomorrow, we have got Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Herb will be joining us, and he's got all sorts of great interview stuff for us. He's got some surprises for us. We'll check that out tomorrow night on Herb Thrasher's show. Again, apologies that Bago Schwalga couldn't join us. I'll just bring you the song. This is Perf with Weed Song.
Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. Killer, cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. See me rolling with my mist through the Southwest scene. Ain't nothing really happening but this cracking Southwest weed. With a box full of rolled up Swisher sweets. I got the bombest weed of the world. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. You know I got the bomb. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. You know I got the bomb. Come and get it from me. The minute I wake up, I'm reaching for my cannabis sativa. Don't even brush my teeth, just wake up and hit the reefer. Don't even wipe the sleep from my eyes, still smoking Chiba. With a weed hangover from last night, that chronic was the creeper. Killer cryptic chronic mixed with Keith and hash oil. In the Southwest, I only smoke the best, I'm mad spoiled. With a screen and tin foil, I'ma strike a device. Then hand me the light, and I'ma light up the pipe. Whether it be that New York pineapple diesel or that train wreck. Catch me with my people smoking sour diesel or that death. Purple Kush will have you floating, feeling so high. Player, fuck with the OG Kush, they pack much drink to get you high. Yeah, put it out before it's stinging your fingers. You can get high later. Just a little bit of hit of my kill will have you flying high faded. Keep me in mind if you ever need a dime. Anything, anytime is fine, baby. Anything, anytime. Anything, anytime is fine, baby. See me rolling with my mist through the Southwest scene. Ain't nothing really happening but this cracking Southwest weed. With a box full of rolled up Swisher sweets. I got the bombest weed of the world. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. You know I got the bomb. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. You know I got the bomb. Come and get it from me. Yeah, grab a Garcia Vega, twist it up. I'm ready to dip. Sitting shoddy in the Hummer. Got my bitch pushing the whip. She love my gangsterness. Under buckets pushing bricks. But most of all, she loves this big ass dick. I hit it, she twitch. Smoking on that bomb Buddha, trying to relax. Extended clips on the Mac 11. Keep on poking out of my pants. Diamonds in my earlobes and weed on my breath. Catch me rocking the Gucci backpack with the hat and shoes to match. Besides all that, after the green, I need a snack. And a drink for the cotton mouth, cause the cotton mouth be getting me bad. I love to mix a little bit of grass with some bubble hash. Put it up in a bong, 6 foot long, take 2 puffs and pass. See me rolling with my mist through the Southwest scene. Ain't nothing really happening but this cracking Southwest weed. With a box full of rolled up Swisher sweets. I got the bombest weed of the world. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. You know I got the bomb. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. Come and get it from me. You know I got the bomb. Come and get it from me.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
future.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Marijuana Compassion and Common Sense, starring Lanny Swerdlow from Inland Empire, California. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific on 420radio.org.
One of the most disturbing elements of the Prohibition War is how it's made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows the futility of prohibition and reaches out to educate the community and current law enforcement. Today, the Russ Belville Show visits with another speaker from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition with one clear message: cops say legalize drugs.
Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and this is our regular twice-monthly segment, Cops Say Legalize Drugs, and it's brought to you in partnership with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. You can check out more about LEAP at leap.cc on the internet. Joining us today, we have a retired deputy sheriff from Colorado. It's John Baker. Hello, John.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for joining us on the show, and we're really excited that you're joining us, that you worked in Colorado.
Well, let me clarify that. I'm a retired deputy sheriff from Los Angeles County.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're in Colorado now?
I live in Colorado now. I moved after retiring.
I gotcha. Okay, so Los Angeles County deputy sheriff, but now living in Colorado. So now you're there, and legalization has taken effect. There's shops that are open and selling marijuana. And just how much has Colorado suffered? How much has it gone to hell in a handbasket since this has taken effect?
Actually, I don't think it has. I know there are a lot of people, and somewhat myself, I considered about the reputation that Colorado might be, the land of Cheech and Chong or something. But it hasn't changed much. It's just the idea that there are now stores open that can legally sell recreational marijuana.
Is there any concern about the marijuana tourism? I mean, I saw some reports of fans of the San Diego Chargers, fans of the New England Patriots there for the football games that were in the shops, stocking up. Is there worry that there's going to be a lot of out-of-state trafficking because of that tourism?
I don't believe we've seen that. I do know there is some concern, but someone from out of state can only purchase, I believe, a half an ounce of medical or recreational marijuana. Then they have the additional problem of getting it out of the state. So I guess if they stay here and spend money on hotels and restaurants and skiing, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made in the tourism for sure. Now, you come from a family that was all involved in law enforcement. So this is something that's been a part of your background for, before you got into law enforcement. How did that shape your views on pursuing drug criminals as a law enforcer? Is that something that your family had always had opinions on, that it was always, get those big bad druggies, or is it something that developed just through your career and the twists and turns it took?
The pursuit of drug users in law enforcement comes from those people who train you. I did not get that from the people that were my uncles and cousins and such that were involved in law enforcement. But during the training period, when I was going through first getting involved in law enforcement, there was some elation if you went out and made a felony arrest for marijuana. I have never been a major drug chaser nor a drug user, but I always thought there was other things that a bit of a maverick, I guess you could call me. I always thought there was better things that we could do as law enforcement officers.
Yeah, that's something that, of course, LEAP points out and is becoming a more popular point of view just in the community and amongst law enforcers. But at the time you were doing it, it sounds like that wasn't a very popular point of view. Did you have to keep those points hidden? Were you able to share that point of view with other colleagues, or was it a risk to your career?
Well, it could have been a risk to my career, I believe. You can't. Back in the 70s, and so it wasn't a case of that you couldn't say it, but you had to be smart enough to say it to the right people that had the same understanding. But absolutely no one in the governing bodies could have possibly saw any sense in two law enforcement officers spending 4 hours to book one prisoner over a joint. That's overtime. That's ridiculous. It wasn't even good business. But as far as reputation-wise, I kept most of it to myself.
We cover a lot of police encounters that go bad with citizens, a lot of times having to do with their possession of marijuana. Most recently in Philadelphia, there was a young man who, during a stop and frisk, actually ruptured a testicle in the way that this officer was handling this young man. And we get other stories like that. And I'm wondering how much of that can be attributed to the militarization and this demonization of drug users, and how much of that will go away if we legalize. I mean, is the cruelty there besides the drug war being there, or is it a product of the drug war in policing?
That's an excellent point. Whether marijuana or other drugs are decriminalized probably will not change the attitude of those people who have it embedded in them that it is ultimately a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not advocating the use of drugs. I'm advocating the decriminalization of drugs for several good reasons. However, yes, there will be people who think that the use of drugs or the possession of drugs is worse than being a burglar or worse than being a liquor store robber. I don't, and I think the majority of law enforcement officers do not. But there will be some people who will consistently feel or find a way to demonize the drug.
Unfortunate. You mentioned the 4 hours that it would take, a couple of officers to book a suspect for marijuana. Now that marijuana has been legalized in Colorado for, over, about a year now, as far as possession goes, and now the sales are becoming legal, has there been any data that you've seen or can even anecdotally report that more cops' time has been freed up, or they've caught more bad guys since they've been freed up?
The folks that I know on the Denver Police Department, the various sheriff's departments in the area, have all told me that their time seems so much more valuable now that they can spend actually in the community, maybe getting out and beat walking a little bit, and don't have to worry about chasing down the smell of marijuana. That used to be almost like a recreational time back in the day. I smell marijuana 12 blocks away, and you chase it down. Now, I think officers can spend their time being part of the community, looking for those burglars, those people that invade your homes and steal your blind, or checking in with business owners, and spending their time more wisely and actually in a better way for the community.
That's good to hear. The legalization that's taken place in Colorado has been historic, and has this caused there to be changes in the way police are now trained in Colorado?
I don't believe the training has changed. I just believe now, it's like any law change, any book change, anything where either something becomes a felony or a misdemeanor or an infraction. I just think that's what's taught in the classroom, and how to visually gauge, what is an ounce, what is a kilo, and so on. I don't think the training for law enforcement officers has changed, because I believe most of it is designed for protocol, for community service, and for self-protection in protecting the community. So I really don't believe the marijuana laws, other than, as you say, making history, have changed the training in law enforcement.
One of the responses that we hear sometimes from opponents of legalization, in fact, Kevin Sabet was just here in Oregon saying something to this effect, and that was the idea that police time would be freed up is a false hope, because now there'll be all these marijuana laws to enforce, where before they could just bust people. Now they have to, cite this and inspect that. Do you give that any credence whatsoever?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's, it's not like they handed them a book that was 3 inches thick and these are all the marijuana do's and don'ts. It still boils down to, probably the biggest challenge that law enforcement is going to have is determining the under the influence portion of driving under the influence of marijuana. That's going to be the biggest challenge, but anyone driving under the influence of anything should be taken off the street, period. But I don't believe the gentleman in Oregon is correct, and I would challenge him if we debated.
I'm glad you brought up the DUI provision. Of course, Colorado passed Amendment 64 without changing its DUI laws, but then later the legislature came up with this 5 nanogram permissible inference, which is, we suppose that you're impaired at 5, but you can try to argue against it. What are your feelings on that 5 nanogram limit, and how would you like to see the police handle the possible impairment charges for marijuana?
Well, if someone is impaired and impaired by marijuana, most law enforcement officers, after a time on the street and proper training, can tell by eye movement, by the look of the inside of the mouth, the smell of the breath, and so on, the eyes. But the difficult part, and I'm not sure how they've challenged this yet, the difficult part is the taking of some substance from that person to determine the amount of marijuana in their system. I know in California, unless the laws have changed, it used to be, unless it was a felony DUI, you could not forcibly take someone's liquids, someone's biological liquids from them by force at all. They could refuse. So if somebody says, look, I'm not under the influence, I think ultimately and initially it's going to make a lot of criminal attorneys very rich.
But as far as a standard goes, I mean, is that something that you think is a viable way of determining impairment?
Actually, I don't, because, just like alcohol, which is a much finer tuned instrument at this time, different people will be affected different ways. Mm-hmm. But you have to set a limit somewhere. So if that's the limit they choose, then that's the limit they choose, and I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out.
All right. Well, the whole world is watching Colorado, and I think so far Colorado's given a very good example as to how good legalization can turn out. And we thank you for being a part of that. See here from your bio that you worked with the enforcement division there in Colorado and helped to lecture on Amendment 64, and we're very, very happy that you helped to get that passed.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be with you today, and my pleasure to help Amendment 64. And I'm open to questions or emails or anything like that at any time. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, John Baker, retired deputy sheriff from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. We'll be heading down to San Bernardino for the Cannabis Cup coming next week. Or next month, I should say. Always fun to see that. John Baker, thanks for joining us, and we hope to talk to you again here on the show.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have time for a radical rant, taking a look once again at the intellectual bankruptcy of prohibitionists who make statements and then refuse to back them up with data. You know me. I look stuff up. We'll talk about that when we come back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
New Approach Oregon is a coalition of Oregon citizens who believe that treating marijuana use as a crime has failed, costing taxpayers millions in law enforcement resources. We believe it's time for a new approach on marijuana, and that Oregonians deserve a chance to decide in the 2014 general election. Our approach will regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana for adults in Oregon. By implementing a strict system to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana, we can move Oregon forward and create new revenue for critical services. Under our approach for 2014, 40% of funds would support K-12 education, 20% would support mental health and treatment services, and 15% would be dedicated to law enforcement. Public opinion, coupled with victories in Washington and Colorado, confirms marijuana legalization is inevitable. Visit our website at newapproachoregon.com or our page on Facebook at New Approach Oregon. Thank you. 420 Radio, the world's voice of marijuana legalization.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show.
Yeah, we've made a call on the controversial marijuana ballot question, Amendment 64. Floyd, we can safely say this is going to pass?
It is legal in the Constitution to possess and grow up to 6 plants.
You cannot be arrested for being in possession of an ounce of marijuana.
Colorado and the state of Washington, they voted to legalize marijuana, not for medical use, but for recreational use.
This is the beginning of taking apart prohibition one state at a time. That's how they did it 80 years ago against alcohol. That's how we're going to do it now against marijuana.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Well, you know, one of my sayings here, I look stuff up. And the reason why I say that is because on our side, as a pothead, you know, as a stoner, whatever the hell we are, we're already starting with the deficit of public trust. When we come out, we'll say something that's initially going to be assumed to be BS, to be made up, to be some cherry-picked stat, to be some pro-pot doctor or whatever. So I've made it a habit of of always trying to cite the data, being very thorough about citing the data for my assertions, trying to provide the links, provide the references that people need to look it up themselves. It really comes from my dad, to tell you the truth. When I was a little kid, he forced me to look stuff up. If I found a word I didn't understand, he wouldn't tell me what it meant. He would tell me to look it up in the dictionary. And I had one of those sets of encyclopedias too, and I'd have to look stuff up. So I've been looking stuff up all my life. So it was with that background of looking stuff up that I happened to be going through my Twitter feed the other day. And I saw one of my fans, Ron Mexico, who's a regular listener to the show, who ended up getting in a Twitter discussion with Christine Tatum. Now, Christine Tatum is the wife of Dr. Christian Thurstone. Dr. Christian Thurstone is one of the board members for Project SAM, and more importantly, he is a private rehab owner in Denver, Colorado, one of the largest rehab centers in the state. Okay. And he is constantly on the news. In fact, Thurstone was the rehabber that was in the Sanjay Gupta documentary, in that weed documentary. So he gets national play. He ends up on Colorado news all the time. So Christine began the Twitter discussion with Obama on marijuana equals lazy, predictable news coverage. Smarter questions to ask. Right. So what Christine's shtick, I've been following her for a while. She fancies herself a journalism expert. And her shtick is to slam the mainstream journalists out there that cover the pot issue because they won't ask the tough questions about, how pot rots kids' brains and makes them permanently stupid and causes man boobs and, whatever the hell else, it is that she's upset about. So Ron Mexico, or actually Blobfish is Sexy, at Blobfish is Sexy, responded with, "Wah, my entire industry is in its death throes because we won't get any more forced addicts. Wah." And Christine Tatum responds, "Interesting how the more we press for marijuana legalization, the more addicts there are. Sad truth indeed." To which Blobfish responded, and this is where you can tell someone's listening to my show. "Anyone who tries a substance equals addict. 15% of those in big rehab self-admit, while 60% are sent by criminal justice." To which Tatum responds, "Can't wait to see the sources for this wonder fact." Okay. All right. So the gauntlet is thrown. The pot people came out with some wonder fact, and Christine Tatum is demanding the source. I can't wait to see the sources for this wonder fact. Well, this is what another one of our fans chimes in, who goes by the handle empathetic ent, at empathetic_ent. Ents, of course, were the trees in the Lord of the Rings, right? The big intelligent trees, right? Empathetic Ent joins in and says, "Fantastic, Christine. I'm happy to hear that. Here you go," and provides the link to the TEDS. I believe it's the 2007 TEDS data. Let me click the link here. Well, not coming up. But anyway, it's 2007 TEDS data, to which he answers, "Wonderful, yes?" So Christine Tatum could not wait to see the sources for this wonder fact. Empathetic Ent comes forward with the source, and Christine Tatum replies, "Egads, try again. TEDS doesn't include data from non-public treatment centers." All right, well, this is where I get involved, because I know this fact. I've gotten called on this before. I've brought forth the TEDS-A data, and I can't remember what discussion it was. Maybe it was on his website, but I don't recall. But I was called out because they said, "Well, TEDS-A, by the way, TEDS is Treatment Episode Data Set, and A stands for admissions, right? And it says database that's up on the federal government's SAMHSA website, right? So you can go to this database and you can look up figures, right? And I do this all the time. This is where I find the most current figures, which is 53% of people that are there for marijuana alone were forced there by the criminal justice system. 14% there for marijuana alone, self-admitted, right? But the problem is TEDS-A only covers, like Christine says, it only covers the public data. People that are forced there by a court and then, are paid through by, public sources, right? People that have insurance, people that can afford private rehab, that's not considered in the TEDS-A data. Now, I did do some looking for this. I was like, well, okay, how much does TEDS-A data cover? And I did discover that of all the people that are admitted to rehab, about 58% of them are covered in TEDS-A. So about 3 out of 5 people in rehab, about 3 of them go because of with public money, and about 2 people go to rehab with private money. So I responded to Christine, said TEDS-A equals 58% of admits, but I'd love to see your hubby's private data, please. Because that's the other thing. Once I found that I was only looking at public admit data, I thought, well, let's get the whole picture. Let's be intellectually honest. Let's make sure that we look at what the private data is. And I scoured the internet. And folks, I do this for a living. I look up stuff for a living, have been doing it for 5-6 years now. And I can find, if there's a data source out there, I can usually find it. I could not find any data sources for private rehab admits. Neither could I find it on the national level, nor could I find it even on the specific level of Dr. Christian Thurstone's, specific practice. Christine says the data is public. Christine says the data is out there. I've been looking for it. I have been scouring the Dr. Thurstone website and all his related websites trying to find this data. I cannot find it. So I asked, I'd love to see your hubby's private data, please. Christine Tatum replies, his data are public. Have a field day with them. I reply, really? Links, please. Like percent in rehab via criminal justice versus self-admit. TEDS A is about 4-to-1 on that ratio, and 58% admits. Christine replies, you can read and research, right? Go to it, dude. Now remember, this is the woman who just 6 or 7 tweets ago was saying, can't wait to see the sources for this wonder fact. But when someone else asks her for her sources, it's go look it up yourself. Go find it yourself. Go look it up yourself. Go try to find it. So I respond, also love to know amount of cannabis used 30 days prior to admission. If TEDS A data, greater than half of the people in rehab used less than once a week. 37% used none the month before. And then in response to Christine saying you can read and research, dude, I said, well, Christine, that's the thing. I have been researching for 10 years. And while TEDS A data are readily available, private data aren't. To which Christine responds, well, gosh, Russ, keep trying. well, gosh, keep trying. All right. If you're interested in data, you'd provide some links rather than ad hominem attacks, unless you think you're outgunned, sister. So then it started getting to me just kind of poking and prodding at her, saying things like, in 10 years, I've helped legalize your state, the one north of me, and defelonized recreational and legalized dispensaries in mine, dude. She said, yeah, you must be really proud of that. It's like, yeah, okay, I am. Yes, it's so very much for you to be proud of, I'm sure. I'll stick to helping clean the messes you've made. The messes we made from legalization. I also asked her, it's got to be so frustrating losing to potheads, huh, Christine? 58% support and growing. If you get data, you better show it soon. Followed by, if you were for prohibiting alcohol, you'd make sense. I'm a child of an alcoholic, baby. I know messes. Clean that up first. What else? TEDS A data shows a 7-to-2 ratio of forced by court versus self-admit in marijuana-only rehabbers. Would love to know the private ratio, Christine. Christine says, thanks for sharing. Have fun with that project. I'm sure you'll have lots of helpers. And then she follows it up with an assertion. Whatever you say, interesting that his business, her husband's rehab business, interesting that his business is booming in Colorado where weed is legal and court referrals are down. I said, that is interesting. Do you have a link to that data? She replies, knock yourself out with public records. I have. I reply, you assert husband's rehab business is booming post-legalization, but you won't cite data sources. Makes you look weak. She says, ha, or makes it clear I have better things to do than your research. This is your research, Christine. You are the one who asserts that your husband's business is booming and court referrals are down. We would love to see the sources for that wonder fact. Remember? Why is it that those of us that are legalizing marijuana are expected to have sources for our wonder facts? But people like you who are fighting for the status quo can make any measure of assertions. Oh, weed is 7 times stronger. Kids are coming into our rehab with over 500 nanograms of active THC. The court referrals are down and more people are admitting themselves to our rehab, and not be expected to back it up with citations of fact. Not letting you get away with it, Christine. Hey folks, that's all the time I got for Hour 1. Stay tuned. Hour 2 is next. Got plenty of videos and fun. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you